Okay, guys, so great to have you guys here. Start the week together, Baruch Hashem. Had a great Shabbat, thank God. I hope you guys had a great Shabbat. I was able to spend the past couple of weeks with my parents in New Jersey, which was a very good experience for me to kind of go back to that world for a little bit, to try to integrate some of the things that I've been working on for the past few years. And it's interesting because, you know, most people, when you go back to your parents' house, you kind of regress into an infant. I've experienced that many times. And even as I was in school, you know, graduate school, undergraduate, and I really thought, you know, I was working on myself, especially since I went for psychology and for social work and for therapy. But as soon as I went home, it all went out the window. Sometimes even worse than I was before. But thank God, this was probably the first time that I went home, and the growth was real. And I could feel it even with my parents, with my family. And all of it is really due to me making myself into a vessel for Rabbi Nachman's teachings, for his wisdom, for his advice, and living with it to the best of my ability every single day. And when you do this every day, the days add up. And ultimately, you become another person. Not a different person than yourself, but your real self, your rectified self. Even in Musar, right, in the Torah, they try and get you to, let's say, actualize some of your better attributes, to try to bring them out and try to nullify your negative ones. But Chassidus goes to another level because it actually transforms yourself. It doesn't just remove the negativity, it actually transforms you into a higher self, to a godly self. And it's a real thing. And even though it sounds very simple, it's actually the hardest thing in the world, but all you have to do is be a vessel for Rabbi Nachman's teachings, meaning try and take what you know and place it on the side and make yourself, so to speak, into an empty cup. And to the degree that you can do that, to that degree you can receive what Rabbi Nachman wants to give you. Because part of the problem is that all of our normative thinking, our normal consciousness, that's what's causing our suffering. So we think, oh, if I could just have this situation change, if I could just have that situation change, if this problem wasn't a problem anymore, my life would be good. No, your life would not be good because you still think the same way. You still feel the same way. So when a person is searching for answers, it means it's a different answer than you have already got. And I know that might sound very intuitive, but it's not. Because we often come and we hear new ideas and we think this is crazy, or this isn't normal, this doesn't fit into what I used to do. Yeah, that's right, and that's why you're not happy. So Rabbi Nachman's whole perspective of life, which is deeply rooted in Torah, which is deeply rooted in Chassidut, and deeply rooted in Kabbalah, yeah, it's very different than what we're used to. But thank God, because if it was the same thing you're used to doing, you're going to have the same result. So now the question is that I was thinking about over Shabbat, and I spoke about to my family, and I'm going to get to this in a second about this past week's Parsha, because it just became blatantly obvious to me. How do you leave behind difficult situations? Every single person is going through a difficult situation. Somebody has physical health issues, tremendous physical health issues. Somebody has tremendous mental health issues. Some people have tremendous inability to pay their bills, that their whole family is living from day to day or month to month, and they're under extreme pressure, and they never know when they're gonna be able to pay their bills, or maybe they're behind, or maybe they're in debt. So you have financial issues. Some people have no peace in their home. They don't get along with their wife or their husband at all. Or maybe even if they do, they don't get along with their kids at all, or their kids are going in a completely different way. All of these things are not a surprise, because this world is for tikkun. This world is for rectification. This world is to be able to be free. to achieve freedom. Freedom is not when things are the way you want them to be. Freedom is that no matter what's going on, you're just as happy, you're just as peaceful as you would be if it was your best case scenario. That's freedom. I don't know who I heard it from, but it was probably a leader of some sorts over the past 200 years. I remember I read it maybe 6 years ago. We can look up the source after. It's not a Jewish person. He said that many people think freedom is that you leave your parents' home and you go to a completely new place. That's called freedom because you're free from the shackles of your upbringing and your thinking there and your experiences there. But this person said that real freedom is when you can go back to your home and you're a different person. And it doesn't change based on you going back home. That's real freedom. Now, Rabbi Nachman says an incredible thing, which again, like often is the complete opposite of what you would intuitively think. That is, we often think, once my situation changes, I am going to be happy. When I leave my difficulty, I am going to attain joy. And Rabbi Nachman, based on a pasuk in Yeshaya, that Yeshaya talks about the Jewish people, he says that you'll go out with joy. So the simple understanding of this pasuk is that when we're going to leave exile, we're going to leave happily. Rabbi Nachman says that's not what it means. It means you're going to go out when you have joy, with joy. That's when we're going to leave exile, personal exile, collective exile, any suffering of any kind. When will you go out? Besimcha. When you're happy, then you'll leave. Rabbi Nachman has incredible stories that sound like children's stories, but they're based on the deepest secrets of creation and Kabbalah. And there is one story of a woman who is constantly being besieged by difficulties and challenges. And at every single obstacle or boss, let's say, that she has to deal with, she always reverts to the same thing in the end, and this is what gets her out. And that is, she has this bottle of yayin. She has this bottle of wine that she's giving to everybody. So the commentary explains, what is this wine that she keeps giving to all of her difficulties or challenges, the people who are opposing her, that allows her to completely lift and leave from that situation. And not only does she leaves with the value, the goods, the gold and the silver that their enemy had. So not only does she leave the situation, she empties out her enemy and takes it with her. And the wine, says this commentary, is simcha, is joy. She tries a million different things to leave, she can't. She continues to suffer more and more and more, she can't get out. But she takes out that wine, that yayin, that simcha, and she leaves and she empties out the challenge. And this is what we don't understand. When you're going through challenges in your life, you're not going to leave empty-handed. Hashem himself says, when you leave Egypt, don't leave empty-handed. Come to the Beit HaMikdash. Come to see me full. What are they talking about? The answer is that Hashem only put us in Mitzrayim, not just so we can leave, but we can empty out Mitzrayim. That we can take all of the valuables, all the sparks of godliness that are concealed there, which is the whole purpose of us going down to that dark place, and to lift it out with us. By the way, that pasuk that says that you're not going to leave empty-handed, or don't show up to me empty-handed, Rabbi Nachman says if you take the first letters, or the last letters, I forget which one it is, I have to look again, of those 5 words in that pasuk, it spells Purim. It's amazing. Why? Because Purim was the darkest time in our history. Not that it was the greatest suffering we ever had. We've had many times that we had tremendous suffering. but that Hashem's presence was completely concealed. Even in the story of Purim, there is no mention of Hashem's name the entire time. There is no book like this in the entire Torah that Hashem's name is never mentioned. Why? Because Rabbi Nachman explains that Purim represents the last generation. That is the Hastara Be'Hastara, that Hashem is not just concealed, he is doubly concealed, to the extent that his name is not even there. You have no idea he's even in your life. And the pasuk in the Torah, which seemingly has nothing to do with Purim, which is saying you're not going to leave, you're going to come to me not being empty-handed. It spells Purim. Why? Because there is some very deep value in this generation, in this darkness, in our difficulties. So with Simcha, you're going to leave. We have an issue though. We have an obvious problem. But I have the problem. Okay, great. So with happiness, I'm going to go. But I have this problem. My health is terrible. My relationship at home with my wife or my husband is horrible. I can barely sit in this space. I spend my night crying, going to sleep. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills tomorrow. And I have children who are needing to go to education. And the debt is piling up and on and on. Yeah, but I have my issue. So how am I going to get out? I'd love to be besimcha. That would be great. I would love to be joyful. But how do I change the problem? I need to change the problem. Okay. So now I was reading this past week's Parsha, which is called Beha'alotcha. For a Balei Tshuva, it's one of the most difficult Parsha names to say, at least for myself, okay? But there's an amazing part of the end of this Parsha. And the Pasuk says, Vayahi ha'am kamit onanim. It was as if they were aggrieved. So the language is very difficult. What do you mean? So it's speaking about the Jewish people. We were in the wilderness. Moshe took us out of Egypt. Egypt is always a code word for the secular world, meaning that there's no spirituality in that place. He took us to the midbar, to the desert, to try and take on a new life. A life that my physical life is actually infused with spirituality. That could only take place in the midbar, in the desert. And therefore, we're there for all of those years. 40 years in the desert. But there was a point in the desert that the Jewish people were saying, Moshe, we have no food. We have no meat. We need meat. But they had food. They had a lot of different food. I guess they just didn't have this meat that they were used to. And they started romanticizing about their past life in Egypt, how they had cucumbers and melons. What are you talking about? You were a slave. You were suffering the worst suffering. It reminded me of like relationships, when you think about past people that you had been with. And it was horrible. You had the worst relationship with them. Every day you were just, you didn't know how you were going to get through the day. And now you're thinking, you're like, oh, wow, that was amazing. I don't know why I messed that up. No, you didn't mess anything up. Thank God you left that place. That was a terrible relationship. Yeah, but you don't think like that. Why? Because when you're suffering, you start to romanticize about your suffering in the past, that it was good. So the Jewish people are talking now, why'd you take us out of Mitzrayim? We had everything there. No, you were a slave. Your children were dying. They were sticking them in buildings. It was the worst suffering ever. But that's what happens when you're in this mental space. And the Pasuk doesn't say that the Jewish people were complaining because they were suffering. The Pasuk says, Kem mit onanim. It was as if they were suffering. The Ramban, the second most famous commentator to the Torah, he explains there, why does the Pasuk say that? The Jews are suffering and they're feeling bad for themselves. The Torah says as if they were suffering. And the Ramban says they were speaking of their bitterness like people who are suffering. Meaning the Ramban is saying explicitly they were not suffering. But because they were in psychological pain, because they were in emotional duress, they were speaking out of that place like they were people who were suffering. But they were not suffering. But if you read their description of what's happening, that they even want to go back to the place that their families were being killed because they thought it was better there. That's how deep their inner suffering was. That they actually thought it was better to live without Hashem. It was better when they were a slave to Paro, meaning to the physical world. So this strengthens the question, what's going on? Why are they not leaving their challenges behind? How can they leave if they don't have meat? And the answer is, it's like they're suffering. It doesn't mean they don't feel their suffering. They feel tremendous suffering. But the Ramban is explaining, and the Pasuk says explicitly, they're complaining like they're suffering, meaning they weren't suffering. They had a lot. So now Rabbi Nachman gives the answer. You ready? Because in the beginning of this parak, in this chapter, or this Torah portion, Aaron, a Kohen, he sees all of the tribes that they're giving to the Mishkan, that they're inaugurating the Mishkan. They're bringing the Mishkan, this building where the revelation of godliness happens, and they're each able to bring their own thing. And Aaron, being a Levi, was not able to be a part of that, and he felt bad. And there's different commentators trying to explain why he shouldn't have felt bad, and Hashem was trying to assuage him. He was trying to make him feel better. One of the answers is because he is able to give the Keturah. So what are you upset about? You're going to be giving the Keturah in the Mishkan every day. The Keturah? What's so great about the Keturah? We know that Sephardim, they say this part called the Keturah every morning and every afternoon. Because they did this in the Beit HaMikdash twice, every day. And according to the Mekubalim, the Sephardic Mekubalim, you have to say Keturah. You have to say Keturah. And Rabbi Nachman says explicitly in the Keturah that Keturah has unbelievable power. What is Keturah? And this is the answer to how you leave your suffering behind and how you find joy. Keturah is an incense. The Midrash says clearly, out of all the korbanot, out of all the sacrifices, out of all the things that the Jewish people could do for Hashem, Hashem's favorite thing was Keturah, the scent. What do you love so much about a scent? You're not physical. So you're not physically smelling with this incense. The answer is that there are 11 spices in this incense. 10 of them smelled amazing. One of them smelled horrible. Not bad, horrible. Something that you could not bear to sit with for one moment. So why did Keturah have 10 amazing spices and then one that was horrible? Why don't you just pick 11 amazing ones? And the answer is because within the 11, when you added the one terrible one to the 10 amazing ones, then the Keturah actually smelled better with the terrible smelling spice. So that's interesting. What is that trying to teach us? So the answer is like this. Every single one of us, the nature of a person is to pay attention to his problem. Whatever your problem is. Your problem is like the bad smelling spice in the Keturah. When does that become sweet? When do you get to uplift that smell? So it's not disgusting. So it's not causing you tremendous suffering. When you couple it with 10 amazing smells. What are the 10 amazing smells? 10 great things in your life. You're going to say, well, I don't have 10 great things in my life. Yes, you do. The nature of a person is to look at bad. Why? Because Chassidut explains every single Jew has what's called a nefesh ba'amit and a nefesh elokit. Every single Jewish man and woman has what's called an animal consciousness and a godly consciousness. When a person has not worked on themselves, using the teachings of Chassidut, the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, the teachings of Rabbi Nachman, his normal consciousness, the way he perceives reality, is going to be based on his lower soul, called his animal soul, his animal consciousness. What does the animal consciousness look at? What is a threat to me? Just like any animal. An animal is trying to stay away from danger at all costs. It's all it thinks about. So what are you focusing on? Whatever is a threat. That's it. What happens to a person who's only worried or he's only thinking about things that are problems? He becomes depressed. He becomes anxious. He becomes overwhelmed. He becomes distraught and filled with despair. So what does Keturah teach you? Before you even think about your problem, think about 10 great things in your life. And if you don't think you have 10, it's because your nature is not to look for them. And this is one of the big keys about why Hibodedut is not nice. It is not pleasant. It is essential. Essential. What does essential mean? It means you can't live without it. I remember I said to my friend, someone I learned with in my kollel, he's been my chavruta for a few years, Baruch Hashem, and I introduced him to Rabbi Nachman's teachings. Now he's been learning his whole entire life. He is really a tremendous Talmid Chacham. He learns Yom V'Layla, day and night, and he's always searching for the truth. But he's not as familiar with the teachings of Rabbi Nachman. And when we started to learn together, I requested that we learn a little bit before we learn together whatever he wanted to learn. And we did that for a few years. And Baruch Hashem, I'm pretty sure he's doing Hibodedut every day now. And I texted him, or we had a conversation, and I said to him, I don't know how people live without doing Hibodedut. I don't mean that you don't live, survive. I know you can survive. But to actually live, to feel life force, to feel joy, there's so many things going on. You have a million weights on you. How could you ever be happy? How can you thrive? And I said to him, I don't know how a person lives. And he speaks, he just says what it is, and he speaks very shortly. He doesn't waste a lot of words. And he said, yeah, they're not living. And I thought about it. I'm like, well, it's true. They're not. Because Rabbi Nachman says to be alive means to be happy. So what's the benefit of the Hibodedut? That hour that you take to yourself, that you talk to Hashem, alone without any distractions. One of the primary benefits is that you get a chance to actively search for the good in your life, which is not the nature of your animal soul. So you're not going to do it naturally. Your nature is to only look at bad. But your nature is not really you. Your nature is the lower self you were given in order to have free will to overcome it. But we don't know that. So our animal soul is whipping us every day. And it's making us feel bad. It's making us feel sad. It's making us feel angry. And it's a sheker. It's a lie. So when you go to your Hibodedut, how do you start? Rabbi Nachman says a zamra. Start to say all the good points in your life. I don't have any. My relationship with my wife is terrible. My relationship with my husband is terrible. He doesn't talk to me. She doesn't speak to me. We can't pay our bills, X, Y, and Z. Okay, so you're in the boat with everyone else. Okay, now look deeper. Can you see? Close your eyes now for 10 seconds. Do it with me. Now I want you to imagine you can never open them again. How much would you pay to get your eyesight back? All of the money you have? Would you sell everything? Would you change everything in your life so you can see again? Why don't you realize how lucky you are that you can see? Because you're not doing Ibodah. Because you're not actively looking for the good. I want everybody to imagine now they can't hear. Do it with me. 10 seconds. How much would you pay to have your hearing back? Everything? Would you sell everything you have? When's the last time you felt good about hearing? I don't know about you, but I had the coronavirus, I'm pretty sure. And I wasn't able to taste my food. That was very scary. When's the last time you tasted food? Imagine you couldn't taste food anymore. You just ate. How much would you pay to be able to taste again? These things that we don't pay any attention to because our animal soul doesn't want you to think about these things are causes to be happy always. And this is physical. Rabbi Nachman says if any Jew understood what it means that you're Jewish, just that you're Jewish, a person really chapped, a person was truly conscientious of the fact that he has a nefesh elokit, a soul which is a piece of Hashem mamash, he would be happy the rest of his life with that one thing, no matter what's going on. So we don't chap, we don't understand. That's fine. But that's not the end. Now you need to go into the woods. Now you need to go into the field. Now you need to go into a room that nobody's there and think about it and talk to Hashem about it and actively look for it. Can you walk? My dad can't walk anymore. How much would he pay to be able to walk again? He would give up everything. After the class is over, walk around. Imagine not being able to walk anymore. How much would you pay to be able to do that? Only physical, all of these things. But even that can make you happy. Just to realize why. Because Keturah, which is life, means that you always have 10 amazing things that are happening to you. And one really difficult, foul-smelling, arduous weight, which is weighing down on you, which is causing you tremendous suffering. Why is Keturah the most beautiful incense? Why is it the most beautiful korban sacrifice to Hashem? Because He wants you to be happy. He created the whole world so you can be happy. He wanted to give you all of the good. The Ramchal says this explicitly. Hashem created the world in order to give all of the good. Why? Because that good makes you happy. So why aren't I happy? Because you're focusing only on the one bad thing, and that's not your fault. Because this is the nature of a person. But now you need to become responsible. To be responsible means not to settle there. Take it to your hipodadut. And before you smell that bad spice, first look hard for 10 things. At least. And when you feel happy, and if you're doing this truthfully and honestly, you have to feel happy. If you're not happy from those things, you're not looking hard enough. You're not allowing yourself to feel joy from these things. When you're happy, okay, now look at the one thing and ask Hashem for help. But you're going to do it with simcha. What is the blessing of Keturah? It rips up decrees. When I was in Israel, the last time I was in Israel a couple of years ago, something happening to somebody's family. And the rabbi, he was a Sephardic rabbi, a student of Rabbi Yosef, very chashuv person. And every single time that there's a negative decree in somebody in the community, anything, a family has an issue, he has everybody gathered together secretly into his shul, and they all say Keturah together. Because it rips up the decree completely. Why? Because when you take the one negative thing and you combine it with all of the good, it actually makes the good even better. It somehow makes the good even sweeter. Just like the negative, disgusting spice of the Keturah lifts the whole thing up, but that's only when it's included with the 10. Because if you have it on its own, you're not even allowed to learn Torah with it. You're not even allowed to talk to Hashem with that spice. Wow, I just had such a chap. It's true. Rav Natan, when he was in jail, it smelled like urine. According to halacha, you're not allowed to even talk to Hashem when it smells like that. So that one terrible smelling spice, you can't even talk to Hashem when you have that one spice alone. But when you include it with the 10, it actually makes the 10 smell better and you're able to talk to Hashem. And with Keturah, meaning by finding those good points, actively looking for them, you're not going to want to. When you go to your Bodedut, you're going to have all of the hours of suffering that you had in that day. You're not going to want to look at the good. You have to force yourself to. At all costs. Because the Yetzer Hara is not some evil spirit in the sky. The Satan is not some flying demon. The Zohar says that evil, Ra, is called Atzvut. It's called sadness. If somebody came up to you and told you to murder somebody after this class, you would never do it. Why? Because it's wrong. So why, when we are dealing with difficulties, do we allow ourselves to feel sad when sad is the greatest evil? The answer is because we don't know that. Because nobody ever taught us that. Because it's normal in society to be sad. Accept it. Enjoy it. Rabbi Nachman says, never. Whatever you have to do to be happy, you have to do it. Because if not, you're allowing yourself to experience real spiritual darkness. And it's in your hands. It's in your hands. Chas v'shalom, that Hashem would ever put you in a situation you couldn't be happy. Chas v'shalom. So how do I be happy? How do I live besimcha? Keturah. Aaron didn't understand in the beginning of the parsha. The Jews didn't understand in the desert. Mitonanim as if they were suffering. Why? Because they were focusing on the one thing they didn't have, the meat. Moshe was losing his mind. What's wrong with these people? I remember my Rabbi, Rav Walken, his neshama should have an aliyah. He always used to talk about how everybody's suffering comes from not having hakarat tov. That we simply do not appreciate good in our life. And the less a person is in tune to the good in his life, the more sad and the more distraught and the more confused he is. To be thankful is to be a Jew. To be to have recognition of good is what makes you Jewish. What's the proof? The word Jew comes from Yehudi. What does the word Yehudi mean? It means to be thankful, to acknowledge good. Mashiach comes from Yehuda. Why? Because he's going to teach everybody to acknowledge the good. But don't think you're going to be able to just do it, because the Jews in the desert, that they were called the Dor Deya, the generation of elevated consciousness, they still couldn't see good in their life. Why? Because your Yetzer Hara doesn't want you to look at good. Your natural response is to only focus on the bad. That's a big mistake. That's the cause of all suffering. That's the bad smelling spice. Make a Keturah out of it. Go to the woods, go to the forest, go to your closet, talk to Hashem, but don't talk about the bad yet. First, lift yourself up with joy from all of the good. And if you don't think you have good, look harder. And if you think you looked harder, look harder than that. Even if you only can find one good thing, keep thinking about it and talking about it until you feel joy. Rabbi Nachman has a story about a person. He's called the Sad Sadiq. He's mamash a tzaddik. He does everything right. He does everything he can, but he's always sad. Why is he sad? Because he doesn't recognize good. The Sad Sadiq, when did he achieve happiness? When he recognized what it means that he's Jewish. And the story says that for the rest of his life, he was happy with this one thing. And if you're going to say, what do you mean? I can't be happy just from the fact that I'm Jewish. The answer is you don't know what it means. Because if Rabbi Nachman says you could be happy your whole life just knowing you're Jewish, that's a fact. The fact that you're not is simply because you don't understand what that means. So you need to look into it. And you need to ask Hashem, what does it really mean that I'm a Jew? What does it mean that I'm part of 0.01% of the world's population? What does it mean that I'm part of the only group of people that has been there since the beginning and we're still here stronger than ever? What does it mean that I'm part of a group of people that has been praying and crying for 2,000 years and that everyone has scoffed at you and has tried to murder you and cause you to assimilate into their cultures, and they're all gone, you're still here, and we're back in the land of Israel. You don't know what it means to be Jewish. You have no idea what it means. You have a piece of God inside of you. And not just that piece of God is inside you, you are that piece of God inside of you. The fact that you don't feel that is because you're tapped into your animal soul. The key to transcending your animal consciousness, your consciousness which helps you only focus on threats, only focus on negativity, is to take Rabbi Nachman's teachings and live with them. Don't just get inspired by them. Don't feel awesome after this class and end there. Go do what we just said. Go to a place and start to say the good. And you're not feeling happy from it, you're not allowing yourself to feel the good from it. You have to be very tricky with your Yetzer Hara. You should not be tricky anywhere else in your life. You should be mamish simple. But with your Yetzer Hara, you have to be very, very tricky. I remember when I was in my depressive episode, and I said, you know what? I have to do a Zamra. Rabbi Nachman says it's the key to being happy. I don't believe that, but I want to be happy. And nothing I'm doing is working. Okay, great. So I'm going to try for 1 week. Yes, I'm depressed. Yes, my wife and I are having a terrible relationship right now because of my own issues. Yes, I'm an absent father because I'm depressed. Yes, I'm having trouble making money and supporting my family because I'm depressed. Yes, I'm supposed to be at Kollel and I'm sleeping in my car. So I focused on all of those things, and it led me being in a psych ward and on 3 psychiatric medications at one time. Let me try. I laid in my car. I said, Hashem, thank you that I get to sleep in a car. How many homeless people have to sleep on the street? I'm sitting in a car. No, my car is not the nicest car in the world, but there's a seat here. There's a cushion. I'm laying on it. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem, that I'm at the only job possible, that they would allow me to take time to sleep in my car because I'm not well. that I could be in the secular world still, working in one of these bloodthirsty organizations that they don't care about you at all, and they just want results. They would never allow me to go into my car and sleep. Thank you, Hashem, that I'm in the one job probably in the world that I could go do that. And that my boss understands and he allows me to. Because he cares about me, because they care about me. Because they're Jewish and they understand reality. Thank you, Hashem, that I have a wife. Maybe one day it's going to work. Thank you, Hashem, that I have kids. Maybe one day I'm going to feel better. Thank you, Hashem, that I'm even thinking to speak to you. I would never have thought to speak to you in the past. I didn't believe in you in my whole life. Thank you, Hashem, that I have Rabbi Nachman. Oh my God. I would have killed myself. And I'm not kidding. Thank you that I have Rabbi Nachman. No, I'm not holding by anything he's saying, but at least I could. I could. I thanked Hashem like this for a week. I immediately started to feel better after years and years of depression. It wasn't 100%, but as the days went by and the weeks went by and the months went by of doing this every day and forcing myself to, no matter what was going on in my life, a year later, I was feeling the best I ever felt in my life. And I had students that their family members were experiencing depression, medical, clinical depression, starting psychiatric meds. They called me and said, please talk to my husband, talk to my wife, talk to my children. And I come over, and thank God, because if I didn't go through this whole thing, I would never have the confidence to go. And I said to them, I want you for the next week just to think about the good in your life, and whatever is bad, just thank Hashem for it. Yeah, but what about the doctors? And what about this? Stop. Stop. Every time you're going to a doctor, you're losing hope. Every time you go to a psychiatrist, you're feeling more and more hopeless and dependent on something else beside yourself. You think Hashem made it that you are not capable of being happy? You think Hashem is cruel? You think Hashem doesn't love you? Hashem would never put you in a situation that you would not be able to thrive and be happy in. Chas v'shalom. Your goal now is to figure out how. The answer is Keturah, a zamra. This is not a nice thing to think about. Do it. Rabbi Nachman is not a nice rabbi. His Torah is not just inspirational. It's true. How do you get to experience truth? When you do it. The Baal Tanya says that in the final generation, what's going to bring Geula? What's going to bring Mashiach? Action. Action. What action? So Rabbi Nachman says, take my Torah and go do it. I've never seen a person in my life who, with courage and with braveness, that regardless of his situation and his circumstances and his one foul-smelling spice, which might really be 1,000, and puts it aside for a second and says, I tried it my way. I am going to mamish just give myself over to this. Let's see how I end up if I just live with Rabbeinu's Torah, with the Tzadik's Torah, who probably knows more than me. And he's not singing an Uman every Rosh Hashanah with tears in his eyes, with a beautiful family, with happiness, with peace in his home, with a good relationship with his wife or her husband. Able eventually to pay their bills. Happy with themselves. Nobody has ever went all the way with Rabbi Nachman and ended up being sad or angry or confused. That never happened. Because he's the tzaddik emet. Everything he says is true. Can you imagine? Everybody wants Mashiach. Everyone wants Mashiach. Oh, if I only had Mashiach, he could tell me what to do. You have a Mashiach. You have the tzaddik of the generation. You have your tzaddik. You know when you're going to have redemption? Treat him like Mashiach. He says, do this, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, but if Mashiach told me to, who cares if it doesn't make any sense? That's the whole point. He's the Redeemer. You don't believe what I'm saying? Well, Rabbi Nachman, what about other people? Okay, kol kavod. You know? Try. Do whatever you want. But I'm speaking to you from my heart and from my soul. I can't take suffering anymore. I can't take suffering. I can't take my own suffering. I can't take other suffering. We don't have to suffer anymore. You have what you need. All you have to do, and it's the hardest thing to do, is to nullify what you think and to receive and to act on something which is much greater than you. And that is Rabbi Nachman's wisdom and his advice. This week, we are going to have Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday night men's class in Likutei Moharan. We're finishing the second Torah Likutei Moharan. If you're a man and you want to know what we're talking about, come to the classes. And don't just come and learn and be inspired. Go do what we talk about. That's when you're going to have redemption. If you're a woman, Wednesday, we're starting an amazing brand new series on Wednesday night for women. That we're going to look at the deeper understanding, the deeper meaning of all of the different parts of Tehillim based on Rabbi Nachman's Torah. It's going to change the whole way you look at Tehillim. You're gonna say, I can't believe I had this book in front of me all the time and I didn't know this is what I was talking about. Every Sunday we have the men's, women's classes. Don't just take this and feel good and inspired and feel hope. Go do it. I beg you. Your life is going to change when you do it. Nike was not the first one to say it. The Zohar said it. Do what the tzaddik says. You will be happy. It has nothing to do with authority. It has nothing to do with power. It has nothing to do with agendas. It has to do with there are certain people over the course of history who have achieved the highest level of spiritual and physical mastery. They are called tzaddik emet, a true tzaddik. Rabbi Nachman explains these people, their advice comes from Har Sinai. It comes from the same place that Moshe Rabbeinu received the Torah. Who is Moshe? Who's the Mashiach? You don't like doing, you're supposed to do an hour a day. Not yet. But if Rabbi Nachman says it's good for you to at least do an hour a day, if you do this every day, you will see how it's good for you. But it doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit into my schedule. But your schedule and your own thought process has left you feeling angry, confused, and sad. Rabbi Nachman says I should learn his Torah every day. That's a lot. What about other people's Torah? What about this? What about that? Okay. Are you angry? Are you sad? Are you confused? How many years have you been alive? 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years. Enough is enough. I'm not saying you don't ever learn anything else. Rabbi Nachman says you should learn the whole Torah. But first, live with truth. Then go everywhere else. Then you'll be able to appreciate everything else. But I know for me, as a 31-year-old Baal Tshuva, I don't have time to waste. I don't have time anymore to be sad. I don't have time anymore to be confused. I don't have time anymore to have issues in my home with my wife and with my kids. I don't have energy for it. I don't have time for it. I don't have the mental space. And I know I'm no different than any of you. So please, I'm begging you from my heart. I didn't grow up religious. I didn't know what Chassidus was growing up. I didn't know what Tefillin was growing up. I didn't know what Shabbat was growing up. I didn't grow into and was born to a religious family. I was not born Breslov, even though I was. I just didn't know. It's real. When you see these different Breslov rabbis and they all look happy, it's not a gimmick. They're not on drugs. They're living with truth. They're not just thinking about it, they're doing it. And people who are drug addicts, who were gambling addicts, who were into all types of destructive things that would literally take a person's life. They are inspiring the whole world with Rabbi Nachman's Torah. Why? Because it's true. And the truth and Hashem are one thing. And Hashem is the light, Rabbi Nachman says. The truth is the light. You want to lift your darkness up and transform it to light, you need to submerge yourself in light and to live with it. Thank you so much, guys. Bezrat Hashem, this week, we hope to be coming out with a website, which people have been working on very, very hard for the past month, 2 months. Can't wait to see it. I've heard amazing things about it. Bezrat Hashem, we're coming out with things with Instagram. We're coming out with things with Snapchat. Highlight clips, all types of things. We're working very, very hard day and night to try and bring you this light. Your job now is 2 things. Live with it, expose yourself to it, and give it to others. That's it. And you will be matzliach, I promise you, you will be successful. You will not fail. But you need to trust. And if you're scared to trust, just think to yourself like I did. I'm also scared to trust. However, everything I've tried hasn't worked. Anything that I ever did that Rabbi Nachman said, it worked. Maybe everything he says works. And then I started to do everything he said. And then my whole life changed. And I'm not special. I'm not the smartest person. I'm not the most anything. But I mamish gave myself over Mesirat Nefesh because I was in a very, very dark place and I had no other choice. But you don't have to go to that place. Ask Hashem to allow you to trust you, to follow the tzaddik that Hashem sent you. He is your Mashiach. And eventually, Bezrat Hashem, we should all see the Mashiach Gerav Yamenu very soon in our days. Any questions from tonight's class? If someone can at least tell me they heard this class, that would be great.
Yes, we heard.
Baruch Hashem. Any questions? How to live with this? Any questions about what we said? Go ahead, ask.
Rabbi?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. So I have a question.
You know what? 1 second. Let me turn my air conditioning off because it's turn off the one. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
So I was reading up a little bit on the life of Rabbi Nachman, and I mean, unbelievable, of course. But what I read about is that he was constantly, moving from one place to another, like going to places. He was also very much, I guess, concentrated on unification, like souls and, fixing the souls. I forgot what it's called. So, I mean, when you're saying he'd go to do it and like he did, he was basically alone constantly in solitude and like praying. I mean, is that something that he started with and then he just continued to fix the souls and all of that? Or is it for our own personal redemption when we do people to save our soul?
Great question. The answer is both. Rabbi Nachman was doing Hibodedut as a child. When other kids were playing with each other, he used to go into the woods and talk to Hashem for hours. Where did he learn this from? His great-grandfather, the Baal Shem Tov. And he was not interested at a very young age in what other people were interested in. He, at a very young age, knew that the only good that there was closeness to Hashem, and he wanted to do anything to get it. Every single time he talked to Hashem, he said, Hashem, just bring me closer to you. This was the main ikar, root of his prayers. I just want to be closer to you. He didn't do Ibodah like he's asking us to do an hour. He used to do for 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 hours at a time, every day. And yes, he was also traveling. They used to not see him for a few days because he was doing Ibodah for that long. Obviously, we live in a different generation. And therefore, the main advice is 1 hour. 1 hour. And Rabbi Nachman says that Ibodah is the greatest tool that any Jewish man or woman has of anything. More than Torah, more than tefillah, more than tshuva, because everything is encompassed within Ibodah. That when you go talk to Hashem alone, you are, so to speak, stepping back to how things were before you were even created in this world, when it was just you and Hashem. And that heals you. And you're able to take that light that you experience in your Ibodah back down into your physical life. So, yes, he used to travel a lot, but he was always doing Ibodah, but it wasn't like us that we're forcing ourselves to so that we can achieve happiness. He understood very clearly this is the key to everything. And for him, he wanted to. And when you do it enough, and you work on yourself enough, and you learn Rabbi Nachman's teachings enough, and you live with them enough, you're not going to have to do an hour of Ibodah. You're going to be looking forward to it all day. And you're going to wish you had more than an hour. But that takes time. It takes time. That takes a lot of self-sacrifice. It takes a lot of prayer and asking Hashem to be able to experience that. But every single person can do this. You know, there's a lot of amazing rabbis out there who give you different pieces of advice to learn Torah, Yom V'Layla, learn Torah all day and night. And another rabbi says, you should learn about meditation. And okay, that's great. But let's think logically for a second. Hashem loves every single Jew. He doesn't love any Jew more than another Jew. He loves every Jew the same. And he created the whole world for you. Every boy, every girl. Not every person is capable of learning all day and night. Not every person is capable of staying in the Beit Midrash and doing that. Not every person is capable of doing kiruv. Not every person is able of doing meditation. So why would Hashem ever bring us down here and not have the tools that we need in order to achieve our own personal redemption, our own personal shleimus, a wholeness? The answer is he did. What's the only thing that everybody can do? Ibodah. I had this chap when I was in Uman. Even in Uman, there were rabbis who were trying to teach different things, bringing that. And I thought to myself, not everybody can do that. And if not everybody can do that, it can't be that that's what Hashem wants from everybody. Because Hashem would never make it that there's this one service that's the key to everything, and only a small portion of Jewish people could do that. That doesn't make sense. But everybody can be alone. Everybody can go into a room and be alone with Hashem. You can even get to a point that you could do Ibodah and everybody's around you. But you are able to get into such a space that you're alone with Hashem even in that place. So, yeah.
Thank you. Also, a question, how do you're supposed to nullify yourself and disintegrate and feel like even if someone speaks to you or does something to you, not to take it personally.
Right.
How do you do that and not fall apart and not feel pity for yourself? Because
right.
That's what eventually happens. I mean, you feel like you're being put down, but then right. You think, Rabbi Nachman tells me to nullify myself. And then, right. And you cry about it and feel sad.
Right. So when he says nullify yourself, he doesn't mean nullify your real self. He means nullify your animal soul. Nullify your external self, your ego. You're not leaving your real self behind. You're getting in touch with your real self. What's the reason that we get hurt when another person says something? It's not what they said, even though that's what we feel. And even though nobody could convince you otherwise, it's not true. What a person's saying is not what's making you feel bad. It's the fact that you don't believe in yourself. Because if you truly believed in your real self, then it would never bother you what anybody says. But because we are not brought up to connect to that part of ourselves, we are brought up in a way that we are taught to achieve. When you achieve, you'll be happy. When you get honor from other people, it means you did a good job. When everybody sits up and applauses, it means you did good. And when they didn't, it means something's wrong. That is a complete lie. You don't have to do anything. You're good. You're good as you are. Why don't you feel like that? Because you have not done bitul. You have not nullified your artificial self, your superficial self. You're still living with that part of yourself. The key to getting rid of that part, Rabbi Nachman says explicitly, is hibodedut. This is the reason why Rabbi Nachman says the best time to do hibodedut is before the day starts. Because by getting yourself into a place of bitul before your day even starts, of self-nullification, of nullification of the ego, which comes about simply by doing the hibodedut. It's not by meditating in a certain thing. It's not by having kavanas. It's by talking to Hashem for 1 hour straight. Try it with your eyes closed. When you're done, if you allowed yourself to enter that space, by the time the hour is done, you will not feel your ego. Because what happens is when you talk from your heart, then it enters your heart and the shell which surrounds your heart breaks. That shell which surrounds your heart is called your ego. That's the thing that we grew up with thinking that was us. That's not us. The reason why Rabbi Nachman says that we suffer in life and that we have people who are berating us and saying negative things about us is because you're praying to be close to Hashem every day. You want to be happy, but you can't be happy as long as you're invested in your external self, your ego. Your sense of self as separate from everyone else, separate from reality, separate from the Jewish people, separate from the universe. That's not real. But we're born in America, and we're taught that the greatest happiness is to achieve individual success, whatever you want. That is the greatest lie in the whole world. The greatest happiness you'll ever have is bitul. Bitul doesn't mean you're nullifying your real self. It means you're nullifying your artificial self. The part of you that feels that your whole life is dependent on what people think about you, how people feel about you. Your godly soul doesn't care. Your godly soul doesn't care. If you don't feel that, it's because you're not yet in touch with that part of yourself. And that's okay. That's totally fine. That's normal. However, now we know that there is a way out. Through the hibodedut every day. Let's say that hour in the morning is not enough for you. Let's say now your life happens and okay, so you have a greater shell around your heart. Maybe you were traumatized growing up. Maybe you had a bullying. Maybe you had a lot of breakups. Maybe you had issues with your parents. Maybe you had all of them. And that increases the foreskin of the heart. But Hashem would never put you in a position, a situation, that you would not be able to take it and to transform all the darkness to light. And the only reason I could say it so assuredly is not just because I hear rabbis talk about it, but because I am a living example. Nobody had more darkness than me. I'm not just talking about the things that were going on in my life. To have no real esteem in self, not self-esteem, ego-esteem, but a sense of self, constantly looking for anyone or anything to fill me up. And I had to break very, very, very hard. And from many insults and from many confusions and not understanding why Hashem was doing it to me. And I can only understand now that all of that was to break my fake self. And now looking back, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Because that world is a lie. That self is a lie. That's not who you are. When you go do hibodedut, talk about yourself. Bring up the good points of your real self. Your husband comes and says you're nothing. Okay, so he's wrong. He says, why are you doing that? They're wrong. That's okay. Your kids are giving you a hard time, blah, 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 blah. They're wrong. That's okay. But your only ability to be sure of that is to continue to do the hipodadut, and if one time is not enough, to do it many times in a day. Whatever it takes. I had to constantly do it because I came from a very dark place. My whole sense of self was bound up to my Yetzer Hara. Was bound up to my ego, and I'm not a bad person. I spent my whole life trying to help people. I spent my whole life trying to give to people. That person himself is the greatest target. Because why are you trying to help people? You think it's simply because you want to help. Part of the reason is because helping people makes you feel value about yourself. But you don't need to do anything to feel value about yourself. Your real self is a piece of God. You don't need to do anything. You just need to tap into that part of yourself. Rabbi, I pray every day to be able to see the good in my life. I've always been a pessimist. It's very, very hard for me to actively come to happiness for all the good that I have. I don't know how to do this because even when I thank Hashem, it doesn't feel genuine. What's worse is that when I get down on myself for being this way, that I can only feel grateful when something bad happens and I wish I wasn't this way. Will I ever be able to be genuinely grateful for all that I have? And how when I try to say thank you? Yes, 100%. You will leave this behind. 100%. You will leave your pessimism behind. Your ability to do that is to take your mind and place it on the side and to take Rabbi Nachman's Torah and live with it. Now you're going to think to yourself, well, that's just being mindless. No, it's being mindful. Right now you're being mindless. You don't even realize. And I'm not saying in you, all of us. The way that normative society thinks is called being mindless. Rabbi Nachman says a person, a human being, he doesn't have da'at, he doesn't have God consciousness, meaning he doesn't realize everything is from Hashem and everything is for the good. Rabbi Nachman says that person is not called Adam, he's not called a man. Not a man, like a man or a woman, a human. To be a human means you have consciousness. To be conscious means to be happy. The fact that you're not, you should not beat yourself up for. Rabbi Nachman says, don't try and feel it. Just do it. Don't try to do anything. Don't try to be happy. Just be happy. Force yourself. Don't feel bad that you're not. Just do it. And you're failing at it? Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. Just keep trying. I'm telling you, I know this sounds... I was the greatest overthinker, the greatest pessimist. When anything good happened in my life, I go, oh, this is temporary. Went back to the bed. This is going to end. Complete neuroticism, anxiety, constantly thinking of worst case scenarios about myself, about family, about everything. This is how I grew up. You could never pay me and tell me I would stop. I could ever stop. I could ever really be happy. I could ever not worry. I would never believe you. This is my answer for you. Listen to me very clearly, okay? Because I feel you. I hear you. I know what you're saying. This is what I did. This is what Rabbi Nachman says to do. I'm going to alter it a little bit because I think in our generation, we need it even simpler. Rav Natan says that there's 4 elements of trust. It's based on what he learned from Rabbi Nachman. There's 4 levels of faith. If you want to have emunah, which is the key to everything, faith, you need to have faith in 4 areas. You don't have faith in these 4 areas, you don't have faith at all. Number 1, faith in Hashem. What does that mean? Not just that Hashem is real, that He's good, that everything He does is for your good, that everything He does is to bring you closer to Him, that He never put you in a situation you never thought you can get rid of. Not just to get rid of, but that you can find gold in that place. That you believe in Hashem, even if you don't see Hashem. 2, you believe in His Torah. Even if it doesn't make sense to you, even if it goes completely contradictory to the natural world and to society. You put aside what you think and you believe in the Torah, that it's true, that it's the real good. 3, so Rabbi Nachman says to believe in real tzaddikim. But for me, this is too ambiguous. I have one real tzaddik in my life that I know of. So for me, to believe in Rabbi Nachman, just like I believe in Hashem, that everything He does is good. Everything He says is for my best. Everything He wants me to do is for my best. The same thing with the Torah, and the same thing by Rabbeinu. To not think to myself, okay, well, he was a person, and he was this, and he was that. The Zohar says clearly there's such a thing as a tzaddik emet, that he gets to such a level that he is a human vehicle for the revelation of God in the world. And that everything he says is only expressing the Shekhinah out of his mouth. Everything Rabbi Nachman says is true. I'm not getting anything out by telling you that. I just don't want anybody to suffer anymore. So when Rabbi Nachman says, go do an hour of Ibodedut, when he says, learn my Torah every day, and don't just learn it, live with it. Make it in your heart. Bring it into your heart. Live with it every day, even when you have issues, even when you're sad, even when you're angry, but you don't give up on it. And even if you fall, you get up and you start over again. Be busy with it every day. Why? Not because it makes sense. If it made sense, that would be a problem. Because what's making sense for you is causing your issues. You want something that doesn't make sense to you. Because that means there's hope there. To trust Rav Nachman. Let's say you want to say, oh, I can't do that forever. Don't do it forever. Do it for a week. 1 week, I'm going to do everything Rabbi Nachman says. See how you feel after. What's the last part of Emunah? What's the last part of belief? 100% belief. Just like you believe in Hashem, 100%. Just like you believe in His Torah, 100%. Just like you believe in His Tzaddik, 100%. To believe in yourself. To believe in yourself. That I am good. That I am capable. That I am strong. No, I don't feel any of those things, but I believe I am. And if you believe in these 4 things, even if you don't see it, and even if you don't think it, and you act according to that belief, not according to your thoughts, you act according to your belief, you will become those beliefs. And then you're going to realize that all of your darkness is not coming from you. It's coming from your Yetzer Hara. And then you're going to be like, wow, that is very scary. That a person like me, a person who's a good person, a person who thought that I was my problem my whole life, and I never realized how much my Yetzer Hara was causing me to feel crazy. How much society was causing me to feel crazy. Everybody, thank you so much. By the way, don't forget, we have an Instagram page. We put out the challenge, and this is going to help you. When you see Rabbi Nachman says it's not good to have friends who are on the journey with you, you need them. We're all on the journey together. We're all coming from very low places, and we're all trying to go all the way. With Hashem's help, with His Torah's help, with the Tzaddik's help, with your real self's help. So we need to do it together. That means we need to see what each other's doing. We need to lift each other up, to encourage each other. We have an Instagram page. If you put your hibodedut up, meaning you take a picture or you take a video and you hashtag it, we do hipo. It's going to be placed up there and you're going to be able to see everybody else's do it. Everyone should be doing this. Not just because it's cool. Or, I don't care about that. When you see other people doing it and they encourage you and you're doing it, you're going to be stronger in it. Rabbi Nachman says his students need to constantly be encouraging each other, because what Rabbi Nachman wants you to do is the hardest thing to do, but it's the greatest good. You're going to need a lot of encouragement from your real friends. Your real friends are not the people you grew up with. Your real friends are not the people who gave birth to you. Your real friends are the people who are searching for the truth with you. We need to encourage each other.
What do people don't have Instagram gonna do?
I'm one of those people. So
You don't count. You're something else.
No, not anything. I'm nothing. So what are you gonna do if you don't have Instagram? It's okay. We are coming out with a website now. We are gonna have Bezrat Hashem, hopefully a forum in there where we can all mechazik each other and encourage each other. We have big plans. However, we obviously need a lot more finances than we have to do that. We started this project. It's a non-for-profit. It's from scratch, not from people who had money, from people who could barely pay their bills to start, but people who mamas Mesirat Nefesh, because we believe it's going to save the world. Okay? So therefore, we need financial help. The more financial help we have, the more resources we're going to be able to create this environment that everybody's going to be able to encourage and mechazik each other. We want to have a space where we're able to do that. We want to have within media a forum where you're able to do that. It's so important. And in the meantime, when you don't have that, you have to mechazik yourself. You have to go into your bodedut and you need to mechazik yourself. I didn't have anybody mechazik me. That's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is like we're trying to do it now, that we do it with each other. Okay, this is not a game. This is not a joke. This is life. I want to live. We all want to live. Let's live. We're going to need each other's help. Okay? If you know anybody who can help us financially, this is the key to us revealing all of these things. So just, if you believe in what we're talking about and you sense that there's nothing that's a lie about me, if you sense that there's nothing false coming out of my mouth, that I'm not saying anything I don't mean, and you resonate with this, and you think this can help people and yourself, please contribute. Because not just for us, this is your chelik. You're going to take this with you to Olam Haba. That this light ended up spreading to the world because you were one of the first few people to help. And to send it to your friends and your family. And don't think, okay, they would never be interested in this. They would never connect to this. We've already had people who they thought that and they love these classes. And we're just getting started. We haven't done anything yet. Don't think anymore. Trust. Believe. Rabbi Nachman says, why does the Torah start with Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz? Give us a fact, scientific proof that the Torah is true. Why not? Why are you saying in the beginning Hashem created? Because the whole Torah is based on Amunah. Life is based on Amunah. That's hard to believe. Okay, that's the whole point. But if you simply believe it without understanding, then you'll come to understanding. To be Yiddish, to be Jewish, means to believe. Not to believe when you understand, to believe before you understand. And then you're going to understand. That doesn't mean believe in anything. It means believe in the truth. Hashem is the truth. The Torah is the truth. Rabbeinu is the truth. Your godly soul is the truth. Believe in those things. And you will go out b'simcha. You will go out with joy. Everybody have an amazing night. Oh, by the way, where you contribute right now, I think we have Chase QuickPay. Eventually, we're moving to PayPal. When we have more information than that, we'll give it to you. We're going to have a donation page on the new website we're coming out with. If you just put CEO and Bresla Project at gmail.com, you can donate there. This counts as Maser, 100%. This is the greatest Maser you could spend, is to be shining the light of Nachman on people. This light can save the world, the whole world. I went to school for psychology and for social work for 6 years. I was completely part of the secular world. I was completely part of the affluent intellectual society. This thing that we're sitting on right now, this is going to save the world. Not that. If you want to be part of redemption, don't watch videos about the Mashiach. He's going to come. We got to get our act together. Stop with all of this. You want to bring Mashiach? Do good right now. Just do good right now. Focus on right now. Do something good. If you do something good, you bring Mashiach closer. If you're worried and you're thinking and you're calculating, you're not doing good. Rav Natan says when you do these things, you delay the coming of Mashiach. You want to do something good, you want to change, start right now. Don't say tomorrow, don't say then. No more time for that. Take the lesson that you learned tonight and go do it for the next day. Then tomorrow, come to the class and learn something new. The next day, try and do that. Next day, you're going to have another thing. Try and do that. Somebody says, what if you do both? What if you do both what? Sorry, I didn't get the end of the question. I can guess what your question is from the iPhone. What if you do both? Calculate and do good. Stop calculating. Believe me when I tell you, please stop calculating. Calculation is your Yetzer Hara. You don't need to calculate anything. Go do something good. The world has you convinced you need to plan and you need to plan and you need to calculate. You don't need to do those things. You need to think of doing something good right now, and whatever it is, go do it. And then the next moment, you need to think about another good thing to do. Then go do it. These moments will stack up and you will be in a different place. You don't need to calculate where that place will be because you don't know where that place will be. Only Hashem knows where that place will be. And the longer that you're calculating and the more you're calculating, the longer it will take you to get there. My whole life, I've been calculating and I'm not stupid. All of my calculations ended me in a psych ward. And by the way, everyone in that psych ward was also very intelligent and was busy with calculating. Don't calculate. Go do. You want to help? Go do something. You want to bring Mashiach closer? Go share the light of the tzaddik. You want to bring Mashiach closer? Go do what Rabbeinu says to do. Don't be busy with all of this. If the question is, should I go move to Israel? Should I be thinking and planning? Okay, but the plan is right now. The plan is not, I have something that that's not doing anything for you. You want to go move to Israel? Do something right now that helps you get closer to moving to Israel. Stop planning on doing something. Stop calculating. It is sheker. It's a lie. Do it. Everybody have an amazing night. Bezrat Hashem. I will see you guys tomorrow night. The men, Monday and Tuesday. The women on Wednesday. And then Thursday night, Bezrat Hashem, hopefully something special. We'll see. And again, CEO and Bresla Project at gmail.com. That's quick chase pay. You have any questions about how to donate and how to help, you can email us at CEO and Bresla Project at gmail.com. Please be a part of this. For our sake, for your sake, for the Jewish people's sake, for the world's sake. I love you guys. Thank you for listening to me. Everybody have a great night.